everyone. I am super excited for today's live discussion on social selling, whether it be the death of social selling or the rebirth of social selling, or let's just get real about social selling. We have a wonderful panel discussion prepared for you all today. I've got two gentlemen who I absolutely adore and are just absolute rock stars in the sales world. They all know a lot about social as an incremental channel to all the other channels that we use. And I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. But first, let me go ahead and introduce myself. I am at Jill_Rowley, R-O-W-L-E-Y, and that's Rowley, not Rowley, like Growley, Jill Rowley on Twitter. I'm a sales professional, trapped in a marketer's body. I spent 52 quarters on Quota, crushing it at Salesforce.com from 2000 to 2002, and then 10 years, a decade on Quota at Eloqua, where my buyer was marketing. We were one of the first to actually build and sell a marketing automation platform. Eloqua was acquired by Oracle, and I spent 10 months and 17 days leading Oracle's global social selling initiative. And 3+ years ago, I launched my own company, and now I get to do really cool stuff like professional speaking and training and enablement of sales organizations. And I'm also an investor in a portfolio of MarTech and sales tech companies. So with that, let's have Anthony Iannarino in the arena introduce himself and say hello to the group.
Hey, Jill, how are you? I can't hear you. Okay, I'll introduce myself. I can't hear Jill, but that's cool. I'm Anthony Iannarino. You can find me at thesalesblog.com. You can also find me youtube.com/Iannarino. And I am a speaker, I am a writer, and I am an entrepreneur. And I do coaching and consulting with sales organizations all around the world. Passing it to Gabe.
Working for InsideSales.com. I run our Inside Sales Labs. That is our best practice and research group. I'm excited to be part of the conversation today.
Okay, so I'm back on air. It seems like we have the whole group having lost their connection. So the sound and the video isn't working for some folks. So we are working on that technical difficulty. I'm just going to type to hold tight, working on. Hold tight, everyone. We're working on it. Okay, so logging out and back in fixes the audio video. Refresh your browser. That's coming through the chat. Okay, let's go forward. All right, so thanks everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulty. We're here to talk about social selling. But before we discuss the topic, let's define what social selling is. And I want to have each of our experts weigh in. I'll start. I define social selling as using social networks, not social media. Social media is for marketing and it's about reach. Social networks are for selling and they're about relationships. Social networks reveal an individual's identity, who they are, where they work, what skills they have, where they live, their relationships and their shared relationships that you have in common, and then also their interests. So social networks are used to do research on your buyers, to be relevant to your buyers, to build relationships with your buyers that ultimately drive revenue, customer lifetime value, and advocacy from your buyers. That was a long definition. Let's kick it over to Anthony to see what he says.
I hope that a naked man doesn't run behind me while I'm speaking, Jill. So social selling really is, in my opinion, a set of tools that are available to salespeople to do above the funnel work, provided they have the right mindset, the right skill set, and the right insights to be able to leverage those tools. It's really a good way to create some recognition above the funnel, and it's a set of tools for nurturing accounts over time. And I think that that's the extent of what the tools are valuable for, and that will be the heart of my conflict with Jill, I think. Gabe?
Yeah, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, you guys, and say that social selling is the act of sales reps wasting valuable selling time on the internet, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay, I don't really think we can leave it at that, Gabe. You're not off the hook. Wasting valuable time on the internet. I want to challenge you. We're coming back to you, and we are not letting you leave it at that. What do you mean by wasting valuable time on the internet?
Oh, well, Jill, I want to be a little provocative here and have this debate. For me, this actually started. I had a sales rep come to me, and he said, "Look, I'm a quota carrying sales rep. Every month I got to hit my number." And he said, "I'm having a hard time in my territory doing that, and specifically winning with social selling." And I asked him and said, "Well, what are you doing?" And he mentioned to me, he said, "I've played around with Facebook groups. I've toyed around the idea of a podcast, but really I'm focused on creating content because I believe that statistic that says decision makers consume at least 5 pieces of content before engaging with the sales rep is true." And I just said, "Oh my goodness, we've got a problem here. If there's other people who are struggling," and I would say in that case he's fitting my definition very well. He's got a monthly quota in his territory, and he's trying to play with Facebook groups. I think he's wasting his time on the internet when he needs to be selling. And I think it's something we got to see if we can't solve.
Anthony, why don't you weigh in on this? Anthony, let's have you weigh in and provide some commentary on Gabe's provocative, but I think very relevant point.
It is. It's interesting where we are, and I think that social selling jumped the shark a long time ago. And let me try to add some context around what Gabe is saying. There's a certain set of tools that work very, very well for content creators, and content creators are what drives the internet. I mean, if there's nothing there to click on and there's nothing there to look at, then the internet's not a very interesting place. So content creators over-index. But the problem from the people who sell social selling is that they made this promise that if in fact you go out and you tweet your face off, and if you share articles, that you will be able to generate opportunities without having to do the real work of prospecting. And they're so hyperbolic. They said things like, cold calling is interrupting people and you should never cold call again. And they said things like, this is the new sales, and anybody who does any of the traditional methods is doing it wrong, and they're not going to be able to do well. And in fact, the opposite turns out to be true. The people who are using the phone and all the other methods of communicating with clients that have developed over centuries now tend to over-index on result versus people who try to be passive and wait. And there's a number of things that I'll call it the conceit of the social selling mafia. The conceit is that because I'm a content creator and I can over-index in social selling, talking to people who want to talk about social selling on the subject of social selling, that someone in another market is going to be able to do just that. And it assumes, one, that person is a content creator. It assumes that they have an audience for their market. It assumes that they're interesting enough to garner that attention. It assumes that they're deep insight, and it's not true. And so the promise has been made that, look, never cold call again. Everything's going to be inbound. You're going to be able to generate the results you need just by using this toolkit, and it hasn't proven true. So this is why social selling died. Social selling died. It's going to be replaced by a digital toolkit that salespeople do learn to use responsibly, and we can talk about what that means, and we can talk about who it works for and who it doesn't. But it died because it was so overblown, and it never delivered those kind of results for anyone who's done it outside of a small group of people who are massive content creators. And I will tell you, I'm accused of being hypocritical on this because people think I'm social selling and what I do. And I have never social sold. I sell, but what I do with the blog and with YouTube is content marketing. I'm a content marketer. I don't waste my time on the internet all day. I'm getting attention for me, but I'm not out connecting with people and sharing with them and trying to chat people up. And it's a very, very different thing that a content marketer does than somebody who is a quota carrying rep who's got to use the social tools to generate results now. And that's what the point that Gabe's making. If you need results now, speed to results is going to come through other methods. This is a longer term play.
Yeah, so I agree that social selling is absolutely a longer term play. And I really think it is, the confusion in the industry is related to the assumptions then of the definition of social selling. If we go back to how I define social selling as using social networks to do research on the buyer, the buying committee, and the smarty pants people in that buyer's world, what I call their sphere of influence, doing research on those individuals so you can be relevant, so you can build relationships. Stated a bit more lengthy, it's using the social networks to find your buyers, to listen to your buyers, to relate to your buyers, to connect with your buyers, to engage with your buyers, and ultimately to amplify your buyers' message, what they care about, and their advocacy. So one of the things that I do is, and I think it's important to note, when I was a quota-carrying sales rep at Eloqua, I never produced a piece of original content or published a piece of original content. When I was on quota at Eloqua from 2002 to December of 2012, I never created or published my own piece of content. It wasn't until I moved into a different role, which was to educate others on social selling, that I actually started to create my own content, because I had to get my point of view of what social selling was out into the market. One of the things that I continue to refuse to do is to automate any content sharing through my social networks. So if you see me share a piece of content, or if you see me tweet, or you know that I am doing that in real time, I am not actually automating that. I do use tools to help me curate really relevant and on-point content, to find that content on artificial intelligence, on the industrial Internet of Things, on marketing ROI. But I don't automate any sharing of that content, because I want to be an example of what sellers should be doing as it relates to content sharing. So I'm adding my perspective to this, because I think we're the way that the three of us are defining it, we're actually in agreement as to what sellers should and shouldn't be doing. I think the issue is with the terminology. And, you know, Anthony, I'm going to actually come back to you and then Gabe to you. One of the things I hear a lot about is the social selling mafia and the people who said it was all social and only social. I don't know who those people are. Like, I'm really curious, who are those individuals who gave the world that impression that social, it was all social, only social, that the phone, this thing, was dead, and that email was being shut down, and face-to-face was not something anybody should do, and that we should just spend all of our days tweeting and liking and commenting and sharing on Facebook. Anthony, who are these social selling mafia fools that you speak of?
First, we have to talk about what a horrible example you are as a social seller, Jill. Because if this was caveman times, your cave would have the most furs of any cave with no other tools except for the fact that you're Jill Rowley. I'll let you go ahead and respond to that because you're a hustler of the first order, and the tools are not as useful in someone else's hands as in yours. You agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that. I have the right mindset of what selling is and what my duty as a sales professional is to my customers. I believe that my job is to help facilitate a process of discovery. I talk about the whole process from unaware to advocacy. The buyer is unaware they even have a problem. They're unaware that you exist, or they're unaware that you can solve the problem, all the way through to the point where they're generating so much value from working with you, maybe leveraging your products or the ecosystem that you've built, that they're willing to be an advocate. You've earned that advocacy by being an advocate of theirs. If I didn't have the right mindset, and if I didn't have the right skill set of basic foundational fundamental selling, which is, doing a qualification, doing objection handling, demonstrating how my solution helps solve that specific customer's business problem, then the tool would amplify. If I wasn't a great sales professional foundationally, the tools would amplify that I sucked. In my case, they amplify that I do professional selling the right way. So, there's a lot in my cave. Yes, for sure. Should we let Gabe comment, or do we take it back to Anthony?
Yeah, I've got plenty of comments. Can you hear me? Yeah, so let me just throw out my 2 cents on a couple of these comments, you guys. So one thing that I think a lot of people find difficult, go look up any definition of selling, and you're going to find the following definition. Give or hand over something in exchange for money. Okay? Now, any definition that has prospecting or listening or networking or researching, that's not selling. So I know that in it of itself has caused a lot of problems with the world of salespeople. Number 2, you asked, Jill, who are some of those people who are just advocating for just doing social selling? Go check out my blog, my LinkedIn. I wrote an article called "Is Social Selling Dead?" You can see some of the comments, but I'm going to read just a quick post from one of the commenters from their own blog that basically says here, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but basically says, look, for myself personally, I don't make phone calls. And this is, quote, social selling guru. Again, I don't want to throw people under the bus, but this is a very followed social seller. For myself personally, I don't like making cold calls. It's out there, Jill. I promise you it is, and sales reps are picking up on it. And then last, I got to say one more point, is it's the data. Look, I run the research team here at InsideSales.com. We got a study coming out next month. I just looked at 1 million phone calls. I can tell you 7.7% of the time, out of 1 million phone calls, people are having conversations over 2 minutes. Not every, the majority, so much of the studies on social selling, it's all about people's opinion. We asked a bunch of people, and we feel like social selling is better. I'm looking for that hard data. I want to know for sales reps, what are the tactical things that are leading to results? Then we can start talking about what social selling is and is not. Those are my 3 points I wanted to get out there.
Yeah, that's great. So I definitely am going to take a look at that blog post, because anybody who says they're not using the phone, buyers are still having phone conversations. And the centricity of all of this comes down to the buyer, right? And how does the buyer want to communicate and engage with you? And I have buyers who, when they call me, they want me to pick up the phone. They want to talk to me. I have buyers where we text. I have buyers where we DM on Twitter. I have buyers that slay me into my email inbox, which I cannot stand going into my email inbox. I have buyers who want to meet me face to face, and boy, do I love getting face to face with people. That is nirvana to me. Social is just a way that I can stay in touch and reach and learn more about more people. But getting face to face is something that I really, because this is about relationships and looking someone in the eye, there's nothing that replaces that. So, I think the exchange of money thing, Gabe, is the thing that I have the issue with, because I play the long game and I invest in long-term relationships. And, I have relationships that started 7-8 years ago that have just now recently resulted in an exchange of money. And that's, to me, I don't want to sell anybody. I absolutely, I was a quota crusher. I made my number. I was #1 sales rep. I went to President's Club. So at the end of the day, you've got to close the business if you're going to make your number. But the way at which you go about it, I think, really matters. So Anthony, I want you to talk about that way at which you go about it and how that actually matters. Good selling. Tell.
I find it interesting, the negative connotation on I don't want to sell anybody. And that's the thing that so much undergirds this social selling and this softness of, well, wait for the client to reach out to you, or wait till the client to decide that they want to take the next step, and communicate with them in the method that they prefer. And there's just so much softness around that. If you really believe that selling is something that you're doing to someone and that is harming that individual, you should stop selling whatever it is you're selling, for sure. And if that's your approach, then you should absolutely stop selling. But selling is something that we're doing to people and for people. And I don't understand the hesitancy to just sit around passively and wait that most of the people that are proponents of social suggest. It's a long play for sure. But I don't understand the waiting. If you have a good reason to call someone because you can help them, then you should pick up the phone and call that person and try to help them sooner rather than later. What do they get for your passivity and your willingness to wait while they generate lower results than they can? And let me share a story with you. I just moved to HubSpot, and HubSpot's a terrific content marketing platform, and they say on their signs at their events, never cold call again. That's the words that they use. And how did I end up at HubSpot? They cold called me. They said, you look like somebody who would benefit from what we do, and we'd like to have a conversation with you. Somebody there, a salesperson, proactively picked up the phone and called me directly to sell me a platform based on the idea that inbound marketing is enough. So the company that does inbound marketing has cold callers, and many of them trained by Mike Weinberg, who's more aggressively antisocial selling than almost anyone I know. And LinkedIn just ran an ad saying, we'd like you to join our team, and you're going to be making cold calls. It's in the job description. And they have a book, I think, an ebook that's based on the title Prospecting in the Post-Cold Call Era. And they're going to have people cold call. So, that is it. They pick up the phone and cold call because it's speed to results. So I don't understand the passivity around selling people. If you're a salesperson and you feel ashamed about that, then you shouldn't be in sales. If you think, and I'm looking at your comment, Hillary, I hate to be sold to. I don't know about that. I hear people say that. And then when Steve Jobs would walk on stage, we'd all tune into him so we could be pitched. We love being pitched something that we're interested in. And because we're interested, we want to hear the pitch. And I think that we're now, the pendulum's finally swinging back. And I expected this 8 years ago when we started this anti-cold calling thing that was going on, and that it's all going to be inbound and that social is going to be enough. I knew that that wouldn't work. And I think any of us who have been around long enough to know that this is a fashion business. Social selling's a fashion. The fashion's already gone. We're now trying to change the name to digital transformation, and there's a good reason for that. The tools allow you to create intimacy at scale, and that's going to be an important concept, and I'm going to write a whole book about it because it is an important concept on what we're doing. But the fact of the matter is, everything that we've ever done has integrated and added to the tools that we already use without giving any of them up. We're still going to use the phone. We're still going to use mail. We're still going to use email. We're still going to send FedExes. We're still going to walk indoors and meet with people face to face. And we're going to add some digital tools to enable us to maintain those relationships over time. So we've never given anything up. All we've done is add. Account-based marketing's coming next. That's the next fashion. You can look for it. In 4 years, it'll be bell bottoms and no one will wear it anymore.
I'm going to give Gabe a chance to weigh in here. Hopefully me putting the earphones in helps with the volume. I apologize to everyone for the issues with the volume. I really think this is all coming down to definitions, and we're being too nitpicky on the definition of social selling, the definition of cold calling, the definition of content marketing, the definition of, I think we're using those terms when, from a concept perspective, we're more in agreement than we're not. And the reality is that the best sales professionals are all about helping their customers achieve success. They look at things through their eyes of their customer, and more often than not, they can find those customers' perspectives in social and digital. And so, when I proactively, I didn't wait for Steve Lucas, the CEO of Marketo, to call me. When I wanted to connect with him and start a conversation with him, I researched him. I found a video of Steve Lucas, the CEO of Marketo, talking about his first 90 days. I wrote down his words. I sent him a personalized invite on LinkedIn talking about the engagement economy, which is what Steve Lucas is, really that's how they're redefining Marketo, is around not marketing automation, but around engagement. And so he accepted my invite to connect, and we moved it to email to schedule a face-to-face lunch with him and the COO. And now the way that we communicate is via text. We communicate with each other by social posts on LinkedIn and Twitter. And that's what I mean personally when I talk about social selling and using social and digital just as channels, as incremental channels to really build better relationships. So I think we're actually not so far apart, but Gabe, I'm going to let you tell me, in all of that I've just shared, what is it that you wouldn't do if you were a sales professional? In all that I shared, what am I doing wrong as a sales professional? In all that I shared, what am I doing wrong as a sales professional?
Yeah, I mean, Jill, you're not doing anything wrong. How can I say that the great Jill is doing wrong? Let me weigh in on a couple things. So first of all, I liked Anthony's point. I do think I used to be I used to not to like to sell people. I used to want to give away everything I did for free because I thought that actually was what people needed. But I don't believe that anymore. Now, I do believe that it's my duty to get commitment from people, because when they commit and when they're sold on something and they actually exchange money, again, using that definition, that they actually change, and this world and our lives are all about change. And so I am a believer that we need to actually get back to selling more and committing people so that they do take that journey. When it comes to the definition, I agree with you on that, Jill. I do think we probably all get into kind of the details, and the details of the definition don't matter. I think we need to get into the actual how-tos, and that's where I feel like I appreciate you moving the discussion that way. Someone posted to me, this was just a couple days ago, they said, they've got a Kite Desk study, says sales professionals who actively practice social selling were 6 times more likely to beat their quotas than salespeople with rudimentary or no social media skills. And the question posed to me was, what in the hell are they actually doing? Forget the definition. What is leading to success when it comes to social? And I think that's where the conversation needs to get to. And again, I'd like to see some research. Roberto put out there and said there's a great case study by one client. I want to see millions of data points. I want to see studies that show these types of actions really drive success. And so that's what I mean, the prospecting thing, I think building relationships using social media is advantageous. I did that before social media existed. I used to call friends of people that I was looking at prospecting to get information on them. I'd look in the newspaper. I'd look just generally on the internet. So I don't know if that's, hopefully that's not just all there is about new to social is building rapport by learning about someone you're going to sell to. Wow. I hope that's not the revolution. So I want to move the debate and talk about those types of things that really drive results. And I think content is the big question. You mentioned, you never as a quota-carrying sales rep built content, but a lot of people recommend that we either share it or build it. And again, as a quota-carrying sales rep, it's a big debate. If I'm going to use my brand to build pipeline, which is a common definition of social selling, do I need to be creating content? So to answer your question in short, Jill, I love prospecting and I love building rapport, but I'd love to continue to debate what are the other key pieces of social selling that people should or shouldn't be doing. And content, I think, is an interesting one.
Yeah, so content, let's actually talk about content. And there isn't a one size fits all, and there is no silver bullet. I was with a company in Dallas yesterday, and they produce 2 pieces of content 7 days a week. And their sales people, which are very high-end strategic consultants, are required to generate content because they work directly with their clients and they're in the trenches solving sales and marketing issues, and they are required to write about that from a content perspective. Does the average quota-carrying salesperson need to be creating content? I don't think so. I don't think that's really right now, in particular, in the profile of who we're hiring. It doesn't seem to be the core skill set. And I don't actually think that in general that's going to help you make your number. I think I hope we're getting to content 2.0 as it relates to social selling. Content 1.0 in social selling was just sharing your company branded content, company branded content, company branded content, company branded content. Smattered in there a little bit of OPC, other people's content, which could be more thought leadership content like a Forrester report or an IDC report or a blog post from like Chief Sales Officer Insights or whatever, the kinds of content that your buyer consumes. And that sharing of that other people's content started to be filtered into social selling. Where I think we're going with content is much more specific, much more relevant, much more personalized. Platforms like Point Drive from LinkedIn and Follows, FOLLOZE, Uberflip and Lookbook HQ. These are all new tools. I know there's some questions about, give us some ideas on tools. These are new tools that enable marketing and sales to work more closely together to create very buyer-centric, very buyer-relevant content. What I love to use to get someone's attention is their content. So if I'm trying to engage with GE, for example, I'll find a piece of content about GE. about their digital transformation, an article in Forbes or in HBR. Maybe it's an article congratulating their CIO for winning top 5 CIOs in the world, and I'll share that piece of content and I'll tag. So there's this thinking that content is just content marketing, and it's really about leveraging content to provide an insight, to be of value and service to that buyer, to show them that you are truly trying to understand their world. So that's where I think we're going, next generation content. And in terms of also content that is shared in a more fun, like video. I've downloaded Viewed It. It's a Chrome browser plugin. And I record videos. So if I'm going to introduce two people, I'll record a quick video. Anthony meet Gabe, Gabe meet Anthony. I think you guys share a lot in common. Anthony's bald. Gabe, you've got a great head of hair, but I still think you guys are going to get along. So with that, Anthony, let's talk about what your perspective is on content and me calling you out for being bald.
I'm intentionally bald. It was the drugs that caused me to lose my hair. Not those drugs. It's the drugs after the brain surgery. Joe, you're at odds with most of the people that talk about social selling. And most of the proponents suggest that salespeople should be creating content and sharing that content as a way to prove that they have the insights and to become a trusted advisor. And this is where the argument that that's the right strategy falls apart. Imagine a financial company with 600 sales reps, and each of those sales reps is going to be obligated to write one blog post a week. Okay, so the first challenge is if you're in financial services, you're not writing a blog post because there's nothing that you can say that would get past legal, and legal's not going to review 600 blog posts a week, number one. Number two, marketing is never going to let you message, especially when the risks are that great. And if you don't like financial, go to pharmaceutical. What's pharmaceutical going to say? There's nothing that they can say that's interesting because anything interesting would cause them legal challenges. Or think about people who sell into industrial environments, many of which the people that they're calling on don't even have a LinkedIn profile. As odd as that sounds to us, they don't. And they believe that it's content creation. And listen, you only need two things to be a trusted advisor. You need trust and you need advice. And if the person responsible for writing that advice doesn't have the chops and they're not deep, you do not want them producing content. You do not want them producing things on their own that would make them a thought leader. They're going to have to find another path to that, and it's not going to be through generating content. So, Joe, you're markedly at odds with what most of the people in social selling say that people should be doing with the social tools. And I think you're right. There is a difference between creation and curation, and there's certainly research available that we've never had before. I mean, the social tools in the way of research, there's never been a better ability to find people, to understand their needs and reach them. But that's all above the funnel. To Gabe's point, that's the research you do before you start prospecting. And here's my total beef on social selling. It's been cast as the only way to prospect. That's how you're supposed to be prospecting now. And you're backing off of that. And a lot of other people are now starting to back off of it. And you're starting to see the pendulum swing, specifically because it was overpromised and underdelivered. The social tools are immensely valuable, just like every other toolkit we've ever had. But they're not going to be effective if they're not sold correctly and if the promise that they're making isn't something that can realistically be kept by any method.
Yeah, I think we're running out of time, and wow, I can't thank the audience enough for the incredible chat activity. I think that's been a value add where the attendees of the event have really been communicating with each other. What I recommend is, I've been looking at people's names and looking them up on LinkedIn to try to get a little context of who was weighing in. You've got a couple minutes where this is still going to be live. So if you like what someone shared or commented or asked in the chat, I highly recommend you quickly take down their name and look them up on LinkedIn and connect with them, because part of what good selling and just being a good professional is sharing ideas with each other. What I'd like to do in the last 3 minutes, Gabe, I want to give you a chance to tell everyone how wrong you were. Just kidding. Just tell us in your mind what are the most important aspects of leveraging social. Maybe it's what you should do, and I loved your point on moving from the why and the what to the how. And I love doing sessions on how to actually do this well and do it right. But we don't have time for that. But why don't you give us your parting thoughts on either what you should be doing with social or what you shouldn't be doing with social. And then Anthony will go straight to you for the same sum up. With social. And then Anthony will go straight to you for the same sum up.
Okay, yeah. I mean, awesome conversation, you guys. I agree with you. Love the chat. And I will be offended if you do not connect with me on social, even if you feel like that sounds like a hypocritical. Connect with me on social. I'd love to continue the conversation. Here's a couple of my takeaways. Number one, I do think the word social selling is done. We're moving to digital sales. Let's just agree and move on. Number one. What that basically encompasses is a sales and marketing strategy like none other that we've seen before. You're going to see more movements like Sales Hacker, Flip My Funnel, where people join it, and it's going to be spurred by marketing, driving a content strategy that drives movements. Salespeople, you've got to get into the how, and I think Jill's right. Find tools that are effective, but watch out for too many tools. Recognize that social selling really means social prospecting, and double down on figuring out how you can do research and build rapport using social. That's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck right now. When it comes to content, work with your marketing team. That's the place to start.
All right. My recommendation is social selling is dead. Long live social selling. The toolkit's still going to be immensely valuable for you, and you need to be on LinkedIn with a very, very beefed out profile. You've got to have a really good profile there, because people are going to come and look back at you. And here's what my best advice is. Use these tools as if they work above the funnel. Find out do the research to find the people that you need and understand their needs. Reach out to them using every method available, and then use the tools for nurturing the relationship. It is about establishing your place as a trusted advisor and someone who has the ideas. And I think that the shift that we're going to see, Stephen Walsh in the comments just wrote this, you're going to start seeing marketing help with a message that's why change, and salespeople have a lot of work to catch up to be able to embody that why change message and to embody the trusted advisor that their clients are going to buy from. All of these tools are valuable in the right hands, but most of them are worthless if you don't build a better rep first, which is why the technology always comes last. It's people, tools, technology, and the warning that I'll give you right now is that the rest of the world's telling you that the technology is going to make up for the shortcomings and deficiencies of people and ideas, and it absolutely won't. So double down on people and ideas, and then worry about technology.
Great. Awesome. Gabe and Anthony, really, really great. I want to just again thank everyone, and thanks for the commentary. We can copy and paste the conversation for further reference. I love how everyone is putting their LinkedIn URLs in the chat. When you send an invite to connect on LinkedIn, don't send a generic invite. They're hashtag social stupid. It's hashtag just plain lazy. Hashtag first impressions matter. Hashtag every impression matters. And I just want to end with one final challenge around social selling. We're still going to call it that for a bit. I've been talking about digital sales transformation, was one of the first to actually talk about the transformation more holistically to digital from just social. Remember that social is an incremental channel, but it doesn't end at the prospecting, and it doesn't end at the nurturing. I use social to communicate with my existing customers who are paying me buttloads of money, right? So I have customers, I have contracts, they pay me lots of money, I deliver tons of value, and I continue to use social as a channel to continue to learn more about them, to understand what they care about, to promote their message, to share content with them. Social is a channel that is throughout the whole journey, the whole relationship. So don't think of it as just top of the funnel prospecting. Don't think of it as just middle of the funnel nurturing. Think about social as a channel for relationships, and relationships hopefully are long lasting. So thank you everyone for attending. I think we need to get some more time on the calendar. Copy and paste the chat. Please send invites to connect on LinkedIn and even Twitter to all of us. And let's go do social well. Let's have the right mindset. Let's develop our skills and learn how to use these things well. And then think about what tools that can help us do that. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate your time today.